Hello everybody, welcome to the final Q&A for this year. It is our Christmas special. My name is Martin Salvo. I am a registered migration agent and senior immigration lawyer at Salvo Migration, and I will be here to answer your partner visa related questions this evening. What I'll do, guys, is I will let people jump onto the stream. If you haven't attended one of these sessions before, all you need to do is ask your question in the stream and I will get to you as quickly as I can. I do try to answer questions in the order in which they are asked. Now, you might be joining this stream on our YouTube channel. You might be joining this stream on my personal Facebook profile, might be one of our Facebook groups. So irrespective of where you are, you can engage and interact with the post. From there, once we've worked through the questions that are asked during the stream, if any, I'll then jump into our Partner Visa Secrets Facebook group where members ask their questions and we answer them during the week. But given it's been a very busy week and lead up to the Christmas break, there's been a lot of questions that have been left unanswered. So I'll jump into the group and we'll scroll through the stream of the group and I'll answer questions as we go. So you can see me answer the questions that have been posted in the group. So again, I'll let a few more minutes pass, just allow people to jump onto the stream, and then we'll get into the questions. What I might do, guys, as the questions are loading, I can't see any have been asked yet, so I'll just jump straight into the Facebook group. If any questions do get asked, we'll answer them as they go. So this is our Partner Visa Secrets Facebook group. If you're not a member of this group, I highly do recommend that you join. It's free to join. 1,000 members now, I believe, and effectively ask your visa questions, your partner visa related questions in this group, and myself and our team of lawyers here at Salvo Migration will answer your questions as quickly as we can for free. So, working through the questions that have been asked in order in which they are presented in the group, I can see one from Jason Coleman. Now, Jason asks, "Hi, I'm confused. I've just put an application for an onshore partner visa and Australian government provided a bridging visa A. I can't see anyone provide any documents. So my questions are, when do I provide any documents and what documents do I provide? Thanks, Jason." Jason, I suppose the first half of that question is that you attach your documents to the IMI portal. So presumably you've submitted the visa application inside an IMI account. In the application folder of the IMI account, you click into it and then you should see a checklist in order for you to attach documentation. So that's where you attach your documents to an application. In terms of how soon you should be attaching documents to a pending application or a submitted application, it's always advisable to attach documents as quickly as possible. That ensures that if a case officer does pick up your file quickly, that there is evidence there for them to assess your relationship against the criteria of the partner visa. If you don't attach documents, it's really within the discretion of a case officer to make a decision on the application based on what they have in front of them, which will just be the information on the form, on the application form. So that's where you should ask, that's where you should attach the documents, that's how quickly you should attach the documents. In terms of what you should attach to support your relationship, Jason, that's I suppose a much larger question, and I suppose the simple answer to that is that you need to attach documentation that shows that you and your partner are either in a de facto relationship or a married relationship. If you are applying under the grounds of de facto, you also need to show that you were de facto 12 months prior, so 12 months before application, unless you can remove the 12-month rule, which the simplest way is to register your relationship as a civil union in Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania, or the ACT. If you'd like to know more, Jason, about what you should be attaching to a partner visa specifically, if you want an itemized kind of list of what should be attached and a breakdown of how you prove a relationship, somewhere around this video there should be a link to our Partner Visa Secrets workshop. During the workshop, I will explain partner visa criteria and really what it really takes to get a partner visa approved, and how you can prepare your application safely, okay? Or in this case, improve your application safely that's already been submitted. Okay, we've got a question that's been asked by one of the attendees during the stream. So I'll just broadcast it to the page. Now, Sima has asked, hi Martin, how can we provide evidence of household commitments while the applicant and the sponsor live apart in 2 different countries? Sima, that's a very common question. And I mean, the reality is that if you're not living together, you don't really have household evidence. You know, the requirement to show household evidence is that the department want to see that you live together, that you maintain a home, that you live as a couple in your home. Now, obviously, in scenarios where couples live apart, that's going to be practically difficult because you're not living together. However, some suggestions that I can give you is that if the Australian is able to secure a lease in both names, that's advisable. I feel that you're probably going to run into difficulties in finding real estate agents and owners that allow someone to be put on a lease that isn't physically in the country, but that's just a suggestion. You can show that the person overseas, the applicant, presumably, is supporting the visa applicant. So transferring funds to the visa applicant, to the sponsor. The visa applicant is transferring funds to the sponsor for the purpose of purchasing things in relation to the property that the sponsor lives in anticipation that the visa applicant will live in that premises when they enter the country. Similarly, if it is at all possible for you to have joint bank accounts, particularly here in Australia, to show that the applicant is transferring funds to the joint account and that the Australian is using the funds of the joint account to pay for the living expenses of the sponsor in their home, even though the applicant may not be physically present in the home. So those are a few suggestions that I can give you off the top of my head, Sima, but the reality is that in cases where couples live apart, that is just the nature of that type of case. And if that is your scenario, then my advice is really to focus on the other 3 aspects, because those are things that you probably can't control. You can control your financial pooling, your financial aspects. You can very comprehensively show your social aspects even though you're physically apart, and you can still show the nature of your commitment to one another even though you're physically apart. So there's only so much you can do if you're not living together. You don't have to be physically living together in order to meet the criteria for a prospective marriage visa or an offshore 309 or even an onshore 820, but it is about making sure that the other aspects are as strong as possible to, I suppose, offset the weaker household aspect. Okay, another question. I might just flick to the main screen, guys, and I'll jump back into the group in a minute. This is from an anonymous Facebook user. Guys, if you'd like to ask your questions and you're on one of our Facebook pages or groups, there should be a button to give permission to Ecamm Live for me to see your profile so that I can interact with you personally. I can see your name. Otherwise, it's going to come through as anonymous, which is fine, but it just means I can't address you personally. So it says, Facebook user says, hi Martin, I submitted my 821 application via email, as was advised by the department. I would like to generate a health referral in order to front my certificate. However, because I submitted my application via email, I can't generate the referral. Any advice on how to go around? Last, what grounds can I request priority processing? My advice would be to contact the department via email requesting for them to generate the referral letter for you, because if you're not able to physically generate it through the EMI account because you haven't submitted through the EMI account, it's going to need to be something that's manually generated by the department. I would suggest to email them. In terms of what grounds can you request priority processing, every couple want priority processing. In my experience, there are certain factors that will lead to the natural prioritization of an application, the strength of the case, how front-loaded it is, and we'll talk about that in a second. If there's children of the relationship, if the application is well prepared, those things will traditionally influence the processing of an application. However, what we're finding very recently, and I mean really in the last few weeks, is that cases that do have things like medical examination sorted and police clearances uploaded and Form 8s and maybe even Form 1221s completed and uploaded to the application, in addition to relationship evidence, are being priority processed naturally. They are being processed much, much faster than what you would see in terms of the average or the published average. Now, there's no guarantee necessarily that your application is going to be priority processed, and you do run a risk of things like medicals and police clearances expiring because they're typically only valid for 12 months. So it's a bit of a calculated gamble. Ordinarily, in a pre-COVID context, in a pre-COVID world, with our client cases, we wouldn't suggest to organize police clearances and medicals, prior to lodgement or just after lodgement. We would advise to wait. We would say, look, it's better to wait because attaching police clearances and medicals really doesn't determine the speed of processing previously. And if you go through that process, you incur those costs, there's a very real possibility, understanding processing averages, that those things could expire, meaning you need to do it again, meaning you need to spend more money. So it's traditionally been our position, to try to save money for our clients, and we would suggest don't let them wait till they're requested, because we know once they're requested, then we can expect your application to be decided very quickly once you provide those things. However, I will say that lately our position is starting to shift, and we're starting to have conversations with clients and people that we speak to that are interested in using our services. When I talk about what the process is going to look like in terms of getting their documentation, I am starting to say these types of things. I'm starting to say, look, it's worth a shot to organize medicals and police clearances, have them attached to the application, or medicals immediately after lodgement, because we're seeing and we're finding and we're hearing of applications being decided very quickly. And that is really in line and consistent with what we've heard in the previous budget announcements, the increased allocations of partner visas this financial year. So, up until the end of June 2021. So to meet that increased quota, the department seemed to be wanting to get applications out, wanting to get applications decided. And the only way they can decide them is if on the file as well. So, I suppose that's the context in which I'm answering the question at the moment. How do you request priority processing? The reality is you probably can't unless you have a child, but organizing your medicals, organizing your police clearances, letting the department know that you've completed those items, making sure you have the rest of your relationship documentation evidence might just lead to your application being prioritized at the moment, given the current climate and given that we're seeing the cases are being prioritized if they have those things in place. Next question. Warren, Martin, Merry Xmas, Warren. Natalia here. It appears that the 600 tourist visa and travel exemptions are getting tougher to secure. Given this, is it now prudent to submit an offshore 309 as they seem to be being granted quicker, as generally all the documents are very, very similar? Natalia, I can't give a blanket answer in terms of whether couples should be submitting offshore 309s. That is certainly an option, and I do agree that we are seeing, and as I was saying previously, we are seeing well prepared and I suppose what you would call decision ready, front loaded applications decided quickly, including offshore 309s. But there is a risk there, because at the end of the day, that's the one thing you can't control. You can't control how long it's going to take for the application to be processed. So my answer really would be, if your relationship meets the requirements, if your evidence meets the requirements, if you've tried a travel exemption and visitor visa and you've tried a couple of times and haven't been successful, then maybe, given, like I said, the current climate in front-loaded applications being prioritized and processed quickly, it might be worth submitting an offshore 309, but understanding that there are risks associated with that. The primary risk being that it could still take a long time, okay? Given that if you look at the advertised processing averages for offshore 309s, which vary from day to day or week to week, the averages will always change on the department website, you're looking at somewhere from 12 to 24 months, okay? So should everyone be submitting 309s? No, only those that meet the requirements. Should you be preferencing submitting a 309 over trying an exemption and a visitor visa? In my opinion, probably not. I would still try the travel exemption and visitor visas first. And if they don't work, then maybe. If you meet the requirements and you're willing to take that calculated gamble, and if you're able to properly evidence your relationship, and if you're able to organize your medicals and police clearances, and if there's no other complications, then maybe in that type of scenario, submitting the 309 makes the most sense at the moment. Evening, man. Is it possible for my Thai wife an exemption to travel to Oz on a TV, on a temporary visa? Then once he can apply for a marriage visa here. I suppose the simple answer to that question is yes, it is possible. You know, spouses of Australians, immediate families of Australians are eligible for travel exemptions. You still need to prove the relationship. You know, a travel exemption really is like a mini partner visa, and you also need to apply for a visitor visa for your wife. You know, a temporary visa, visitor visa, interchangeable terms. So the travel exemption and the visitor visa are granted, assuming that there's no condition that would stop her from applying for the onshore partner visa, then yes. And assuming that your relationship meets the requirements for the onshore partner visa, then yes, it is possible. And you know, before COVID, pre-COVID, before the border closures and before travel exemption processes, that was a very common pathway for people to come in on temporary visas, such as a visitor visa, and then apply for an onshore partner visa with their Australian spouse. Please have a look at two things. Please register for our Partner Visa Secrets workshop. There's a link around this video. It's about a 2-hour long class where I'll talk about all the requirements of all the different partner visas and mention and talk about the travel exemption process and what that looks like. But also there's a video on our YouTube channel. It's one of our Partner Visa Secrets episodes. I can't remember which number. Something along the lines of COVID implications and options for partners, something like that. That's about a 45-minute video where all I talk about is the travel exemption process and the different scenarios and options available to couples. So please have a look at those two resources, and hopefully once you digest the info on both, you'll be able to make an informed decision and decide what's going to work best for you guys. If, of course, you need assistance and you have questions about the process, you're welcome to get in touch with us on, there's a link around this video to leave an inquiry, and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. Next question. If we have a joint account in applicant's country and not in Australia, can that be counted as joint account? Yes. And funds are being transferred from Australia to that account. We've tried to add him to my bank account here. However, as he isn't physically here and doesn't have a visa, we are unable to. There's no legal requirement that you have Australian bank accounts or an Australian joint bank account. What the case officer is looking for is that a couple pool their finances for their expenses of the relationship, for their mutual obligations. That doesn't mean you must have Australian bank accounts. It doesn't necessarily mean you need a joint bank account at all. You know, couples can pool their finances in a variety of different ways. Obviously, though, the simplest way to show that you're pooling your finances is by having some type of joint account. So if you have the overseas joint account and that's how you're able to show you're pooling your finances and paying for expenses of the relationship, then that is what's relevant to your facts, and that sounds like it might be the best thing you can do. Another suggestion that I can give you that I know a lot of our clients have implemented that are in similar situations where they're physically separated, you might be able to open up joint PayPal accounts and show that you're both transferring funds to the joint PayPal account, and that you're both then accessing the joint PayPal funds for your living expenses, and you're both financially supporting each other in some sense, both accessing the same funds. So that's one suggestion I can give you. Saad, hi man, any news about when the border will open? No, there's no news. There's, I suppose, some comments from the Prime Minister that they expect international travel at, I believe, what he called an industrial scale towards the second half of next year. However, what that really looks like, no one knows. It could very well be that only those that have negative COVID tests, recent COVID tests, will be able to travel to Australia. I mean, there's still going to be visa requirements. We don't really know what a post-COVID world looks like, or a post-reopening of borders looks like, but there's kind of a hint that there might be some major movements in that space towards the end or middle or end of next year, Saad. But unfortunately, that's as detailed as I can be, because the reality is no one knows. Natalia, hi Martin. I'm in the process of attaching documents. Is a Form 1221 obligatory to attach or only when requested? In my experience, Natalia, Form 1221s aren't very often requested. I would suggest that you attach a Form 80. Even then, though, they're not always required. But if you want to be comprehensive, and I suppose if you want to follow this, this recent change in government approaches to partner visas and wanting to approve applications that are, completely evidenced, then I would suggest attaching Form 80s, and I would say that to all couples, rather than running the risk of a case officer looking at the file, there not being a Form 80, and then them not being willing to request it, just put it aside, and they go to another case that has Form 80. So I would just get a Form 80. I wouldn't worry about a Form 1221. They're very similar. A Form 80 really asks almost the identical type of questions as the Form 1221, and in my experience, a Form 1221 is rarely requested. So just do the Form 80, get your police clearances, consider organizing your medicals, make sure the relationship is well evidenced, and you might just get your application decided quickly. Christine, hi, I love your channel. That's great to hear, Christine. I have a question regarding time period of A2801, as it is increasing day by day. What you reckon does new rules budget will affect duration of A2801 for onshores? I suppose I've touched on this across different questions that have been asked tonight. Yes, the average processing times for A20s still remain incredibly inconsistent, but we are starting to see the machinery of government, the wheels of the department and the wheels of department case officers, they're starting to request medicals and police clearances from our clients that, for cases that have been pending for a while. We're starting to see that cases that have police clearances and medicals attached, be processed much faster than others. So I suppose that's what's within your control at the moment. It's certainly worth considering. Just understand that there's the risk of those things expiring. But in my opinion, when you kind of weigh the pros and cons, it's probably worth a shot. And especially, like I said, understanding that there certainly seems to be a tangible change in the way departments are processing partner visas these days. And we're starting to see cases be finalized very quickly if they're decision ready. Okay, so that's what you can do in order to maximize the likelihood of your case being processed quickly. Or you need to ensure that your relationship continues to be well evidenced. So every few months, make sure you continue to attach updated relationship documentation, organize medicals, organize the police clearances, and you as well might have your case processed faster. Okay, there's no way to guarantee that. Unfortunately, I wish I could, but processing averages in at the best of times is impossible to predict, let alone during COVID. So, next question. Christine, I have a question. 2 years ago, I had overstayed my visa because I was unable to leave Australia due to my passport being broken. I had to get a new one. A lawyer helped me to get an emergency visa. Christine, I'll just see if the rest of your question has come through. Okay, I got it here. And then a student visa, which allowed me to stay. Now I'm applying for a partner visa. Will breaching my former visa impact my partner visa? No. Okay, so sometimes when people apply for a visa, let's say a partner visa, let's not say partner visa, let's say someone is trying to apply for a certain type of visa. The visa they're applying for has what's called a substantial compliance requirement, which means that in order to get the visa you're applying for approved, you need to have substantially complied with conditions of previous visas. Long story short, it says if you're applying for this type of visa, you can't have overstayed and breached conditions previously, or you're not going to be able to get that visa approved. Thankfully, partner visas are not those types of visas, so there isn't a substantial compliance requirement for a partner visa. Even if there were, though, the fact that you are on a substantive visa now, the fact that you're on a student visa now and now applying for a partner visa, basically means that your slate is clean, okay? Because you're applying for the partner visa whilst you have a substantive visa. If you were still on a bridging visa, waiting for a visa, or if you were unlawful, totally different equation. We start talking about things like Schedule 3 waivers, which we try to avoid for everyone. So Christine, I really don't see that you have anything to worry about in relation to that specifically. It's still important that you show that you and your partner meet the criteria for the partner visa. To understand what that means in detail, please register for one of our free partner visa secrets workshops. There's a link around this video for you to save your seat. How long, and this is from the YouTube channel. So guys, as you can see, this stream's been put across different platforms. So if if you're not already a subscriber of our YouTube channel, please go subscribe. We post all the time. If you're on the YouTube channel and you're seeing me answer questions from Facebook, please go to Facebook, join our free Facebook group, and we answer questions in that group as often as we can, effectively daily. Topeka's asked, how long does it take to finalize the 309 visa after receiving a request email from a case officer asking for additional documents? Topeka, there's no way for me to give you an estimate. It varies really on what was requested, how long ago it was requested, how quickly you provided everything that was requested. Would really determine how long from now you have until a decision. What I will say though is that if that was requested were things like medicals and police clearances and maybe Form 80s or Form 1221s, if those things are organized and provided to the department quickly, it shouldn't be too long before you get a decision. If they've requested additional relationship evidence, that means there's going to be a little bit more assessment that's carried out by a case officer, which will slow down the process further. So I can't give you an estimate, unfortunately, especially with COVID. It's very hard to kind of say how long anything's going to take. But my advice to you is just make sure that you address the request, read the request carefully, make sure you haven't missed anything, make sure you provide what's been requested within the time frame they've given you, and that's really all you can do. Okay, and then from there, unfortunately, it's just a waiting game. Similar question, I suppose. This question's asked that they provided biometrics, medicals, police check in February, received the most recent request for more information in October, but in my EMEA account it's still showing under further assessment. Is it possible to get granted soon? Anything's possible, but I'm not the department case officer assessing your file, so I can't give you opinion as to whether it's going to be approved. Similar to the previous question, as long as you have provided what's been requested within the time frame, and if all really was asked for was your biometrics and medicals and police clearances, then to me that suggests that this case should be finalized quickly. If they've requested additional relationship documentation, that may slow down the process. Okay, so is it possible to get granted soon? Yes. Will it be granted soon? I can't say, unfortunately. I wish you all the best. Hello. How easy is it to get a partner visa after getting a prospective marriage visa? I suppose if you would ask, if we were to kind of give a sliding scale, 1 being not easy and 10 being easy, couples that come in on visas that have been granted, come in, get married, then apply for an 82801. I would certainly put that towards the easy end of the spectrum. The reason being is that in some sense, the relationship has already been partly assessed for the prospective marriage visa. The criteria is different for a PMV. They're not assessing you under the same things they're going to assess you now for the 82801, but it's certainly a large piece of the puzzle. So is it easy? If it's a well-prepared application, if you show the full of the relationship, if you meet time of application criteria, if you consider organizing medicals and police clearances given the current climate, you might just get a favorable decision quickly, especially because you've come through the PMV process and pathway. So I hope that helps, ACAT. Similar to what I've mentioned to others, if you'd like to know how to prepare comprehensive 82801, please attend one of our workshops. Next question. Hi, if the Australian sponsor is transferring financial assistance to the applicant's account, is that also proof? Applicant's account is in their name only. Thank you. Yes, I suppose because it's not identifying who you are that's asked this question, I can't link it to the prior question that was asked. I think I know which question you're relating to. Is it common for, particularly in situations where the couple is separated, typically where the applicant is overseas and the sponsor's onshore, that the sponsor will financially support the applicant. Now that can be via Western Union transfers or other third-party fund transfers services, or in this instance, it can be by direct depositing into their personal account. In that type of relationship where they're physically separated, that's very common in order to show financial aspects. And those type of couples still get partner visas approved as long as everything else looks good. So is that proof? Yes, it is proof. Is that the best type of proof? Early, couples that are living together, are putting their finances, do have joint accounts, will have stronger financial aspects. But that doesn't mean that your case overall is weaker. It just means that the financial aspect is arguably weaker than other couples because you're not actually able to pool your finances in kind of using traditional methods that other couples can because they live together and are physically in the same country. So you have to work with the facts that are that apply to you, and you transferring funds to support the applicant or the sponsor transferring funds to support the applicant is a very common method to show financial support in situations where couples are separated. Next question. It's a big one. It takes a few seconds to load the big ones. I think, guys, what I might do is I might cap the question limit because it does slow down the stream, and it almost crashed the application. So from now on, guys, I can't answer questions that really are this lengthy, but I will answer this one. My wife is now in Australia under her visa, Salvo 600. Her partner visa application was launched in June 2020. My first query, will the immigration grant her 309 application while she's in Australia? There hasn't been changes in relation to that. There has been discussions of the laws changing in early 2021 to allow the approval of 309s for those that are onshore. We don't know exactly what that means. We don't know going to be captured by those changes. We don't know if there's going to be kind of cutoffs in terms of what visa was held at what point. So I can't really answer that question at this point. But at the moment, the laws do not allow it to be approved as someone that's onshore. Number two, I found some people granted their partner visa 309 application quicker. Yes, so you can't compare the processing times of your case to others. It's and unpredictable, firstly. For our case, after our visa application, until now, no immigration officer contact with us. Unfortunately, that's just the process of submitting a partner visa. You're not going to be contacted by a case officer. You're only going to be contacted when they make a decision or if they request additional documentation. Could you please suggest how we can accelerate the process? I suppose, yeah, similar to my comments to other questions, the process at the moment is making sure that you continue to update your relationship documentation, and you can consider organizing medical police clearances now, and that might just trigger a decision being made. However, like I said, the laws have not changed to allow the 309 to be approved to someone that's onshore at the moment. So you can still go through with those steps, but until the laws change, it's not going to be approved whilst your wife's here. And also, in my partner's current scenario, i.e. in Australia, the 600 and the 309 processing, would you please explain how she can convert her visitor visa to a bridging visa A to have full work rights? Then there is, I suppose, a little bit of a loophole to allow bridging visa A to be granted to someone. This is what we understand to be government policy, where if at the time the 309 was applied for, they already hold the visitor visa. So the sequencing is that someone, I'm going to pose the question. If someone applies for a visitor visa, the visitor visa, then applies for the 309, then comes to Australia on the visitor visa, there is policy that allows the case officer and the department to approve a bridging visa to someone in that scenario. If it's in any other type of order, from what we understand, the bridging visa A will not be issued. Okay. In terms of how you go through that process, you have to contact the department and let them know. Okay, so that would be my answer to those questions. Next question. I have seen my partner for 12 months He's from Lombok. Tourist visa because of not working due to COVID. I was supposed to go back twice this year and get engaged in November. I'm getting older and we just want to be together. Unfortunately, tourist visas are extremely subjective. Okay, so even before COVID, in a pre-COVID world, getting a tourist visa or a visitor visa to Australia is not an automatic thing, just because you're in a relationship with Australia. So just factor that in. At the moment, they're even more inconsistent. The government are being very selective in terms of. Also, you have to factor in that even if you can get a visitor visa for your partner, you separately need to be able to get a travel exemption. Now, only couples that can show they're in a married relationship or a de facto relationship will be eligible for the approval of a travel exemption, unless you can show different grounds, which most people can't. So, in this type of scenario where a couple for that length of time, I feel it's going to be very difficult to get a travel exemption approved, but also to get visitor visas approved. So, unfortunately, at this stage, this is the type of relationship scenario. I think the best advice is to wait. Okay, wait and see what happens with the borders, and possibly as soon as borders reopen and you as the Australian are able to travel, it might be worth you going to visit your partner. You know, there's the option there to get engaged when you're physically together, and then that might open up the door to apply for a prospective marriage visa. Okay, you know, the argument to be able to apply for a prospective marriage visa now, as long as you can get engaged virtually. I don't know how strong those type of cases are going to be, you know, when physically assessed. I feel there's kind of risks if there's such a lengthy period of separation. Personally, I would prefer that a PMV is submitted, you know, once you're able to be reunited and spend some quality time together, get engaged, you know, natural, and I don't mean natural as in virtual, not natural necessarily. I just mean in a traditional way, and then maybe you might be able to apply for a prospective marriage visa, or if borders open and things become a bit easier, maybe then you can try to get your partner a visitor visa to come on shore, with the view of maybe then applying for a partner visa. So I'm sorry to be vague in terms of all these maybes, but as you can see, there's a lot of variables here that I can't ultimately predict in the sense of which way you're going to go. Please do register for one of our workshops. I do cover all different types of partner visas, the options and the requirements, and hopefully that will help you start to make a decision and plan ahead in terms of what might work best for you guys in your relationship. Next question. Ricardo. Hi, Man. I'm starting the process for a partner visa. I'm the sponsor and I'm on the pension. Like now, or should I wait for application to be approved? Ricardo, my advice is that Australian sponsors, if they receive any type of government payments, should be notified Centrelink of the relationship. Because in the eyes of the Department of Home Affairs, you know, it just doesn't look right if, on the one hand, a couple are claiming to be in a de facto or married relationship for the purposes of that person securing a visa, but on the other hand, the Australian government on the basis of them being single. Okay, it completely contradicts your claim to be in a relationship when applying for a partner visa. So my advice, our advice as an agency, is if Australian sponsors receive Centrelink payments or any type of government pension payments, our advice is to let Centrelink know prior to the application, before the application is submitted. Next question. Hi, Martin. Any specific advice for a 309 partner visa for my husband of 5 years who has 2 adult and 2 minor children? Children now 50-50 with both parents, which is part of divorce. Children not be included on the application. I suppose it's a bit of a vague, it's a broad question. It's a very broad question. Let me just say that there's no problems in your husband applying for a partner visa in a scenario where he has children from previous relationships, even if they're not migrating, that's fine. They do need to be declared in the relationship. You're going to need to provide details of the children, but that really doesn't have a bearing on his eligibility for a 309. His eligibility for a 309 rests solely on you guys being able to show that you are in a married relationship. Okay, his prior relationships need to be declared in the application as well, but the assessment is made on what you guys have at the moment. Okay, and to get an understanding as to what the criteria of a 309 is and how to meet the requirements, please attend one of our workshops. Not a question, but some kind words. Merry Christmas and happy holidays, Salvo team. What a crazy year. Yes, certainly a crazy year and a well-deserved break needed, I'm sure. Yes, I think we're waiting for a little bit of a break. Mind you, there's only so much of a break that you really get as a lawyer, but certainly looking forward to spending some time with family. Next question. Hi, if the immigration give you 20 days to submit the additional requirements, is it possible to approve soon my partner visa if I submit all the document requirements in time? Yes. What I'll just say is the time that a case officer will give someone to provide documentation in 28 days. Does it mean that your application is going to be approved soon after you provide those things? I can't say, unfortunately. I don't know the specifics of your case. I don't know what was requested. I don't know what you provided them. But if you were able to give them everything that they requested, if you gave them everything that was requested within the time frame, then of course you give the case officer what they need to finalize that application. Whether it's going to be approved or refused, I can't say, but at least you're giving them everything they need to finalize and make that decision for you. Okay, guys, I think that we're up to all the questions that were asked in the stream tonight. So what I might do is I might just jump back into the Facebook group and we'll just kind of work our way through some of the questions that have been asked. So I've got one here from Michael Brokes. And like I said, guys, for those that aren't, I'll just close. For those that aren't already members of our Facebook group, please have a look at the Partner Visa Secrets Facebook group. Just search Partner Visa Secrets in groups and you'll find it. Free to join. This is a question from Michael. Hi, everyone. I would like to ask about to bring my girlfriend to us from Thailand. I'm not sure what to do right now because the border is unfortunately closed. Should we apply now or wait after the travel ban? Did not have a chance to meet yet because of COVID situations. Any suggestions? Michael, my answer to you and really to anyone in this type of scenario, and it is very common, you know, we're receiving a lot of inquiries and questions and messages from people in similar scenarios where they're physically unable to meet their partner in person in a very long time with their partner and partners overseas. The reality is that it's going to be very difficult to secure things like a travel exemption and a visa for that type of partner to come into Australia. The reason is that really only those that are in marriage relationships or very strong de facto relationships are going to get permissions to enter. So Michael, my advice really at the moment is that once the borders open, or at least maybe they relax the rules to allow Australians to depart, it might be worth you considering going and seeing your partner. You know, if there's ever an engagement kind of in the foreseeable future, that starts to open up the discussion surrounding a prospective marriage visa, which is an offshore-based partner visa, to get a better grasp of the different partner visas and understand the differences and what it means to apply for a travel exemption, etc. And I suppose just to reiterate what I've said to everyone else in tonight's stream, please do attend one of our workshops. It really is the most comprehensive partner visa training you will find anywhere. We're extremely proud of what's taught in these workshops. Okay? Jump on one of those workshops, and anyone else who's watching, please do register and attend one of those workshops. I suppose a similar question from Tristan, and I suppose this proves my point that it's a lot of people are in similar scenarios. So Tristan has asked, hi, totally new to all this, looking to bring my girlfriend of 4 years from Vietnam to Australia. What's my best option? Tristan, same answer. It's going to be very difficult for you to find a way to get her in at the moment with the borders being closed. Once the borders open, you know, it opens up the possibility for you to go there, or you might be able to try to get a visitor visa for her to come here. Once she's here, if you're able to start cohabitating and increase the relationship facts and evidence, you might be in a position to apply for an onshore partner visa. There are offshore partner visa options. I wouldn't suggest anything other than a prospective marriage visa in this type of scenario, but that does require that you have an intention to marry, which means that you're engaged in some sense. So have a look at the workshop, Tristan. and I promise you, you'll walk away from the training with a much more comprehensive understanding. Hi, all. My partner and I have lodged an 820 application and we have been granted a bridging visa. I couldn't see where or when we are supposed to download our info. Candidate forms and other documents like all the history of us. Do I wait for immigration to ask for that? I suppose, Jason, you might have already answered. I might have already answered this question in the stream. You should be providing your relationship documentation as soon as possible. As soon as the visa is applied for, you want to be attaching all of your relationship evidence, and you want to continue your relationship evidence as the visa is processing. Kate, I'll just quickly bring up a question. It's more of a statement. Someone said they've asked a question 5 days ago and it hasn't been answered. Guys, please understand that the Facebook group has over 4,000. We do try to answer as many questions as we can. The reality is that it's a free service, so we do our absolute best to get to everyone, and that's why we also provide these weekly live Q&As where you're welcome to ask your question and try to get to it tonight. But I can't guarantee that all questions are going to be answered necessarily. So if you've been waiting 5 days for your question to be answered, I'm very sorry, but eventually we'll try to get to it. You're more than welcome to ask in these types of streams, and that obviously brings it to my attention, and I'll try to answer it live for you here tonight, or next time we're on, which will be in a few weeks' time. Kate's asked, we've applied for a PMV back in how long is health check valid for? It's organize your medicals too soon, they can expire, as I've been mentioning. The problem with PMVs at the moment, Kate, is that they're just not going to be approved to someone unless you can show you're in a de facto relationship at the same time. I suppose there's been an internal policy change in how the department assesses prospective marriage visas because the borders are closed. From what we're now and speaking to industry colleagues, most PMVs are not being processed at the moment because of the border closures, because PMV visa holders are not exempt from the travel exemption, because it's not about being in a relationship, it's about being in a de facto relationship. So if you've applied for a PMV, and this applies to anyone who has a PMV pending, if you can provide documentation that also suggests you're in a de facto relationship, then I would suggest providing that evidence, letting the department know, and that might just lead to the prioritization of prospective marriage visa and the finalization of that prospective marriage visa. Medicals and police clearances, that also opens up the possibility for an approval, but you also run the risk of those things expiring, as I've mentioned and discussed at length in tonight's stream, because it's been asked by many of us. There's a question there from Salvo that was answered in tonight's stream. Natalia, can I change my de facto date once my A20 is granted? We did not understand what de facto meant, and we have been together for 8 years on a long distance relationship. Natalia, I suppose if your A20 has been granted, there's no need to change anything. So you've really done the hard bit. The A20 has been approved to you. Eventually, you're going to be eligible for the 801. Given the length of your relationship, it's not always going to be easily identifiable as to when the de facto situation commenced. There probably is no need for changes already approved. If you're still waiting on you that correct to the department, I feel that's unnecessary. Okay, there's a question from Hala, and the question is, hi everyone, I have a quick question. Does submitting documents late affect when a visa decision is determined and whether a partner is granted? I suppose the answer to that is that a partner visa can't be decided or approved unless you have relationship evidence in front of them to assess you against. So they need to look at your documentation to assess whether or not you meet the requirements. Your application form and sponsorship form isn't it might be enough for them to refuse the partner. The other reason why relationship evidence is to avoid a refusal. But does it affect the, when the partner visa is granted? Yes, it might affect when it's granted, because if you take a long time to attach, it means it can't be approved fast. Will it affect whether it's approved completely? No, not necessarily. Just as long as you provide your relationship documentation at some point before it's assessed by a case officer, that would be sufficient. They basically by that time they will have the evidence to assess your case. However, the best approach for anyone that's looking to prepare their own application or is in the process of preparing their documentation application is get your evidence in order well in advance. Have folders on your computer, have folders on your Dropbox and your Google Drive. Make sure that you're naming them the 4 aspects of the relationship. If you're applying for a PMV, show that you intend to marry, show your wedding planning. And every time you start collecting documents that relate to those aspects, save those documents to those folders so that by the time it comes for you to actually submit your partner visa, you've got as much as you can already in place. And it's easier. You submit the application, you attach everything you have at that point in time. It's going to be comprehensively evidenced at the time of application. And what you need to worry about from there is after lodgement, every 2 months, make sure you just continue to update your relationship documentation. That's how you prepare a comprehensive partner visa. That's how you reduce the risk of refusals. That's how you speed up processing with the department. Next, folks. My wife's biometrics was done on the 2nd of November and it's showing action report or just that way. Runner, if all their requests with biometrics and that's been completed, then there's nothing else you need to do. The department will notify you if they need anything further. This was a question from Gaminda. I'm going to say that this question probably will. I'll just repeat it. Gaminda's asked, my visa class 9, including a child, has picked up a case officer. A request for information was received in August. So as you can see, guys, that's a very quick time. To submit a partner visa and offshore 309 in August and RFI in December, that's a few months, meaning that they're processing these type of applications quickly. I uploaded all the documents on the same day I received this RFI. Can anyone tell my file decision ready how much time it usually takes to grant the final decision? So a minute ago, no one can tell you how long here until a final decision. It's always possible for a consulate or embassy and just kind of gently remind them that you've provided everything. But unfortunately, there's no way to predict how much further exactly you have to go until the decision is made. Hopefully not too much further. There's a common question there from Natalia regarding the payment and 823B. It isn't an immediate payment. It does take a bit of time. So once that payment is processed, you will receive the acknowledgement letter and the bridging visa grant. And so a couple more questions, guys, and then we'll probably wrap it up for this evening and for the year. Camilla's asked, I'm a bit confused with the sponsor form, applying for an offshore partner visa. Does my Australian partner as well? No. So the visa application form and the sponsorship form both completed by the one account. All everything through mine, yes. We filled out the form and have it ready to submit, but I didn't realize that part. I hope someone could clarify it for me. Basically, it's up to you. You can have 2 IMI accounts, submit the visa application form in one and the sponsorship form in the other. That's fine because they're linked because you're providing the TRN for the visa in the sponsorship form. Or you can complete both in the one IMI account, which is a lot easier to manage and I suppose a little bit more using 2 IMI accounts. But either one is fine. That you submit the visa form and the sponsorship form. That information you're providing in both those forms is consistent, that they corroborate with one another, that you're not contradicting dates on the visa form with the sponsorship form. But in terms of how you submit the forms, it doesn't really matter. Okay, guys, I will answer one more question. I suppose this isn't a question, this is a post from Mr. Bahawal, who is a long-standing member of our Facebook group, and he says, we attend a marketing workshop, guys. There's a link to the workshop around here, and follow advice shared as much as possible, including getting our ducks in a row. The terminology of getting our ducks in a row is like an underground movement in this Facebook group. A lot of people starting to understand what it means. And to put simply, getting your ducks in a row means being as organized in advance as possible in your relationship timeline. The sooner you can get organized with your relationship documentation, the stronger your case when you eventually apply for the partner visa. It's something I talk about at length during the workshop. Getting our ducks in a row and using the relationship guide out. For anyone who's wondering what the relationship is, Mr. Bahawal is referring to this resource here. Okay, if you can see it. That resource includes, I think, examples of relationship statements that were written by our own clients that led to visa approvals. So we've modeled the examples in that resource of successful partner visas, so you can see how couples that were approved by relationship statements. And a relationship statement is, in my humble opinion, one of, if not the most important document in any partner visa case, because it gives a case officer a summary of your relationship history, your milestones. You talk about your 4 aspects and your plans and future for your relationship. So if I was a case officer, the first thing I would do is read a couple's relationship statements. Then I would look at their relationship documentation to make sure that it's consistent. Okay. The other thing that you can provide in addition to your relationship statements are relationship timeline images. So think of a relationship statement as the written expression of your relationship timeline, and a timeline image is a visual diagram, a visual infographic of your relationship state, of your relationship timeline and history. Mr. Bahawal continues. We applied in October 2020 for the 309 partner and got approved today. So super quick approval for a 309, couple of months. I'd like to thank Martin, Mandy and the rest of the team for everything they do to navigate the uncharted waters of Australian immigration. Big thanks to the members of this group who are always generous and help each other with guidance and support. My special gratitude to Martin, a very reliable and generous individual. I hope you know that you are making a huge difference to so many lives. Ricky, that's very kind words, and it genuinely makes me extremely happy to hear that your visa was approved, mate. And congratulations again. Guys, I think we will have to wrap it up for this evening, for this year. What a crazy year it's been. I think everyone's been affected in one way or another. Let's hope that 2021 is not anything like 2020. For those that don't know who I am, I'll just quickly show this slide. You know, I'm a registered migration agent, senior immigration lawyer. I'm an author. I've written that book, Helps You Write Relationship Statements. Please check it out. I have fancy legal qualifications, but not that important. What's important is that I've been doing this for a very long time. There's a few bits of information about me personally. My family migrated from South America. I used to play soccer, and I'm a bit of a technology nerd. And for those that are interested in using the services of an immigration agency and a lawyer, then you may be asking, why can you trust us? Why can you trust me? I can sit here and answer questions about partner visas. I can sit here and tell you that we know how to get partner visas approved. However, I would prefer to show you and prove to you that we know how to get partner visas approved. So somewhere around this video, there is a link to download our partner visa approvals booklet. Inside that booklet, you will now find over 50 partner visa approvals that we've secured for our clients spanning over 6 years. So we are not a startup agency. We've been around for a while. We are 5-star rated everywhere online, guys. You will not find a bad review anywhere. So that's why you can trust us if you're interested in using a lawyer. Not everyone needs lawyers or is interested in using lawyers. A lot of people want to DIY and self-prepare their application. If you are the type of couple that are interested in DIYing and self-preparing and saving money on the preparation of your partner visa, please have a look at the Partner Visa Secrets Workshop. I promise you it's the best thing you can do for your partner visa. You can visit our Partner Visa Resources page. There's a link around this video to that page. If you need a lawyer, if that's the type of couple you guys are, please leave an inquiry with us. We'll get back to you as quickly as we can. There's a link around this video to that as well. And I won't see you next week, as that slide says. I will see you guys in the new year. We're back in the office on the 11th of January, which is a Monday, which means the Thursday will be, I think, let's say the 16th of January, but we will post in the group and we will send an email out to those that are our subscribers, letting them know when the next live is. I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, safe holidays, spend time with your families, relax. For those that are able to be with their partner, take lots of photos, use it as part of your relationship evidence, and then eventually you'll be applying for your partner visa, or hopefully we can help you with your partner visa in the new year. Thank you, everyone. Good evening.